With that, recently, ISAAW hosted a virtual panel discussion featuring key South Asian leaders and officials to discuss the importance of this year's U.S. presidential elections in November. We'd like to remind all our viewers to make sure and register to vote, exercising a very important right. Locate your polling places or request a ballot and learn about early voting options in your state. Here's what leaders of Inspiring South Asian American Women, ISAAW, had to say about participation and responsibility of South Asians in the upcoming elections.
My name is Suchitra Kamath, and I'm the president of this wonderful organization called Inspiring South Asian American Women, also popularly called ISAAW. ISAAW educates, empowers, and mobilizes South Asian American women to engage in civic issues and be more politically engaged. We are a 501c3 organization and a nonpartisan organization, and we care about all the issues which impact the community and motivate women to bring about a change when needed. So 2020 is a special year in politics. While presidential elections every time matter, whether it is setting the policy or shaping the Supreme Court, but the consequences of this election will be very deterministic as to whether there will be something which will be fundamentally altering to the nation, in the sense like whether this government which comes up will be committed and be fair and unbiased. If we as voters repeat the mistakes that we made in the past election, then there's something fundamentally wrong with us as voters. So most people will be voting by mail this year, and the campaigns will look different because this year we have another special situation with the coronavirus, and then Kamala Harris, the Black South Asian American woman, joining the vice presidential nominee spot. A lot of things are different this year. So discuss what these elections mean and what is at stake and what can we do about it.
There is still not going to be voting on a machine, except there are specific machines that have been set aside for the disabled and people who need specific opportunities to vote that they can't have a paper ballot given to them. They're the only people who are going to vote in a traditional voting booth, and that's important for people to know. But we are determined in Middlesex County and all over the state to really make sure that everybody who wants to vote in this election gets to vote and their vote gets counted safely. The only other thing I would say is for everybody listening to this call, if you're in New Jersey, you can go on to the state's website, nj.gov.usa, and there's a site under the Division of Elections that allows you to put your town in, and it'll tell you, maybe not today, but within the next couple of weeks, it'll tell you exactly where which voting locations are going to be open, because not all of them are. There's not going to be a need to have every voting location open if most people are going to vote by ballot. You can go onto that site and find out where the election boxes are, everything, the deadlines. I suggest that everyone listening to this call, and if you know people who aren't here, tell everyone you know. They can educate themselves very easily.
Big news. I mean, news cycle moves so fast, but Kamala Harris just this past week accepted the nomination as vice presidential candidate running for the Democratic Party, and she's the first Black and South Asian woman candidate to get to that position. Saad, you were a trailblazer yourself as the first female Muslim American mayor in the history of New Jersey. What does this moment mean for South Asian women and perhaps women of color overall who do want to run for office or pursue civic leadership positions?
Since I've been elected, a lot more South Asian groups and Muslim groups have approached me with, holidays, and can we get a resolution about our holiday, or can we have participation in an event about what we celebrate in our culture. And people would ask me like, oh, how come this group, we never heard about this group, how come they never came to us and told us about their holiday? And again, I said, well, they probably just feel more comfortable approaching me because I'll have some frame of reference for that. And similarly in the context of COVID, I'm the only non-white mayor in my county, and we have regular mayor's calls with the freeholders. They were daily at the start of the pandemic, and now they've kind of tapered to a little bit fewer of them. But on one of those calls, I mentioned that I had heard that some of the undocumented members of our community were afraid to go to the food pantries because they thought there might be some immigration enforcement at those sites. And there was some incredulity on the call that, oh, why would people think that? Like, that's not going to happen. And, you know, I've never heard that. And again, I could say, well, maybe people just feel more comfortable telling me about this because I have an immigrant background. And so I might understand these fears more. So absolutely, I think representation matters. And so seeing Kamala Harris on that stage, you know, for, you know, one of the two major candidates from the major parties in our country with a high likelihood of becoming vice president of this country, I think really opens doors for people. It shatters glass ceilings. I think for young girls growing up now, that'll just seem normal.